In other business news developments, South Africa's volatile economic conditions have pushed business and household confidence to lower levels. According to the BankservAfrica Economic Transaction report, the reading has fallen to 134.0 points after dropping in July following a recent rebound. Economist Elize Kruger joins us now to go through this particular reading. Thank you so much for your time, Elize. Talk us through this one. It is really a tale of two stories.
Yes, indeed, Tumisang. So we've seen the Betty initially getting a bit more life during June, although we were skeptical that that is the beginning of a sustainable trend. So then in July we had the Betty actually dropping, and now in August a further moderation. So what we are really seeing, if you look at the Betty over a couple of months, is a scenario of just muddling along at the current level. We're not getting enough momentum to break out of the current range of the Betty. And it's really to us, if I look at that, a reflection of, on the one side, the low confidence levels that you mentioned, but I also do think it's the cumulative impact of all the challenges that South Africans had to deal with over the past 12, 18 months. We still have elevated interest rates. We've now seen a further increase in our fuel prices that will result in a turnaround in inflation. So we're heading upwards again in the next couple of months. So the factors, are still all there, on top of that load shedding. So I think, the cumulative impact is definitely biting. And we are seeing that in the Economic Transactions Index that, shows really a drop in activity and also a muted third quarter.
We are sitting in the month of September in the year of 2023. Next week we hear from the Reserve Bank with regards to the latest decision on interest rates, and analysts are a bit mixed about that picture. I'm interested in the near-term outlook of this index, particularly because the economic climate in South Africa is unlikely to change by tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. I think in the near term, the Betty will remain under pressure, i.e. the economy will remain under pressure and remains in this muddle-along narrative. On the inflation side, if I could maybe just mention the Betty is reported in real terms, so we strip out the impact of inflation. And if inflation is now rising again, towards 5.5% on headline inflation, it will definitely, pressurize the Betty to be lower. So yes, I do not think we'll have really good news in the next while. Inflation is heading back to 5.5. That's an uncomfortable increase from the current level of 4.7. It's an increase I also do think the Reserve Bank would not be happy about. But having said that, the one positive data point in the last week has been a drop in inflation expectations among the population. So that has been a positive, and I know the Reserve Bank, watches that with a hawk's eye. So I think the Reserve Bank should stay put on interest rates. I think they have done a lot, and there's a lot of strain in the economy. I can really not see a further hike.
That strain is also impacting consumers in the most harshest manner. Elize, the household element of this index speaks to that. What state is the South African consumer in?
Tumisang, I think the South African consumer is really in dire straits. If you just think about all these factors mentioned, also impacting on the pockets of households, on the household budget on an ongoing basis. So that is really impacting. If you think about load shedding's cost as well, for those that could to do mitigation measures, that's an additional claim on the budget of the household. And also, just generally speaking, all the extra measures to mitigate what the impact of load shedding is on each household. So it's all adding to the pressure. And we also have a job market that's not particularly conducive to new opportunities at the moment. We have seen also in BankServ data that the take-home pay has been actually in negative territory, meaning that wages have not kept up with inflation. So that's all factors that place additional pressure on household budgets.
Lastly, Elize, when you reference the take-home pay, we know that South Africans have not been seeing increments for the last couple of years since COVID-19 came in as a distractor in terms of activity in the labor market. But with regards to big business, can we then say, based on the findings of this current index, that there is still some resilience that's been exercised?
Well, Tumisang, I would say the economic environment remains difficult out there. The Betty, if anything, is indicating that we remain in this muddle-along scenario, so not really breaking out in terms of growth. When we see that in the economy, we've got low levels of growth. So it remains a difficult business environment for companies, to survive in and to be able to look after employees with comfortable wage increases are difficult. So I think, we can hardly expect a very promising outlook in terms of that. And businesses are still struggling, as long as we've got load shedding at these sort of punitive levels, it will be difficult in the economy. So yes, resilience we have seen, especially among manufacturers, but I think that the pain is just, keeping on for longer. And one will have to see if that resilience would be able to continue.
Thank you so much for your contribution, independent economist Elize Kruger. They're talking to us about the latest BankservAfrica Economic Transaction Index.